Hi everyone, I'm Daphne from IBlieve, and welcome to our college series. IB Year 2 students and graduates from all over the world have gathered the best tips and tricks which can help you in your college application process. We know at times it can seem daunting, but we hope through this series that we can help you gain more confidence in yourself and in your abilities because we believe in you.
Hello, everyone. Today we're going to be asking some IB students some college application questions. So let's start off by making some introductions. So why don't you guys introduce yourselves?
Okay, so my name is Priyasha and I'm a year two student from India studying in the Philippines, and I'm hoping to enter Georgetown University in the fall.
Hi, my name is Jonathan Nang. I am an IB graduate of May 2019. I studied IB in the Philippines, and I am now a university student, a sophomore at Fordham University, New York City.
Okay, great. So let's start off with some general questions. The first one we have here on our list is, what can I do in IB now to prepare when applying for colleges?
Priyasha, you're currently the IB student, so why don't you go ahead first?
Yeah, so in IB, I think in your first year, it's important to start making a list, and you can start with a long list of maybe 20 schools and then start narrowing it down. But I think research is the most important in your first semester of IB, and obviously maintaining your grades and boosting your grades to get good predicted scores. All of that is important.
That's fantastic. I totally agree with the long list. When I first started IB, I started off with 25 universities all around the world. So I had Singapore, Australia, United Kingdom, and the USA on my list. As time went on, of course, IB work does get harder, especially during year one. So that actually kind of went to the back of my mind because I had to focus on getting my grades up for year one and the predicted grades, which are equally important. The next thing I did though was I also looked into all of these universities. So it wasn't just looking at Google Maps or Googling, their websites and looking through the majors and minors I was interested in. It was also going more in depth by looking through Reddit communities, talking to alumni of those schools, really getting a good insight into the university that I might be applying to or going into. And I think the most important thing you can do is to never underestimate the power of research and networking. Within your school, you're most likely going to be able to contact a lot of alumni from your high school, and they may be all over the world. And through there, you can get to know their schools, and you might be interested.
Okay, great. So the next question that we have here, well, you kind of already answered it, I guess, but when should you begin the application process, and when did you first start applying for your own personal experience?
When should you begin? If you mean researching and things like that, that can start really anytime. But when should you start applying? That's really up to you. Typically in the United States, you can apply in a few rounds. So there's an early round, which is in November, and there's a regular round, which is in January. But this varies for the UK and Australia or whatever. But I think it's important to start figuring out what you want. So for me, I wanted to spread out my workload, so I applied to a lot of my schools in November, so early action. But I didn't do early decision, which is like a big commitment to make because you have to attend if you get in. But I did a lot of early actions, and then in between my early action and my regular decision, I applied to the UK. So in that way, it was kind of staggered, but it also sounds like a lot of work actually, now that I think of it, because it's like you don't really have a break between November to January. But yeah, it's really up to you what round you want to apply.
Yes. So going off Priyasha's comments regarding that, it's been a while for me. It's been almost 2 years since I've had to do this application process. But because I mentor at IBlieve and I help out students who are doing their college application process, some parts of it I still remember. So start beginning with the UCAS system for the UK college application system. The UCAS tends to start somewhere mid year one. You have to start looking into your school, start writing, your UCAS statement because as some of you or know or may not know, the UCAS system only uses one essay and that essay is sent to all 5 of the universities that you apply to. Um, from there, they will send you conditional offers or unconditional offers, depending on what grades you bring in. If you send them your predicted grades, they will send you a conditional offer. If you send in your final IB grades, they will give you an unconditional offer. Um, at the same time, you have to remember that in the US system, the common application system tends to be a lot more complicated and difficult and arduous, specifically because the US system requires many essays and many pieces of documentation to be sent to each school individually and separately. Another thing is that as Priyasha mentioned, there is a um, early decision and early application process. The early decision process is usually that school that you really believe you want to get into. If you do get in, you must go to that school. Otherwise, you may be at the risk of being blacklisted by other universities. For early application schools, that simply just shows the university that you have an increased interest in those in them, and that if you do get sent an offer, then it's within your rights to either turn them down or accept it. Hopefully, you'll accept it. Um, so I think when it comes to researching, you can start as early as you want. I started before I even started with the IB diploma program. However, when it comes to the application process, you must look at the schedule of the UCAS UK system or the Common Application System for the US to know exactly when your deadlines are.
So next question. Um, this is like kind of tricky question, but we got it in our Google form. So it says here, how to manage the college application process if your school does not have a school counselor to, help you manage it.
This one's hard because I had a counselor, but the counselor was in charge of around 30 other students. So a lot of the things I did have to do on my own. So I think the first thing I would say is you can try to find a counselor outside of your school. I know some people do that because I think the main importance of a counselor is for them to affirm your decisions, question your decisions, and most importantly, send your papers, like your media reports and transcripts. Like those are kind of difficult to do on your own. But if you don't have one, yeah, you can try to reach out to someone else. But just always know it's possible to do it on your own.
Like Priyasha, in high school, we had 2 counselors in my school handling about 75 students. I do not have the necessary information or the personal experience of not having a college counselor. However, I do have friends in other countries that have managed to do their IB program and then their college applications without a counselor. And the best way that they actually went through everything was to get the support of trusted teachers and administrations within their school to help them with the advice needed, the documentation processes, and the communication and liaising with their college um, administrations and other such college admissions officers. I think it's very important to know that you're not alone. There are many, many countries and many, many more schools within those countries that do not have the necessary resources to provide counselors for each student. That being said, there are many um, websites and online resources and people that you can reach out to and ask them for help because, well, the college applications process is already a very challenging process. And so getting all the help that you can, even if it means, well, to a certain extent, paying some people for advice and help, it is quite necessary. However, I would not say that it is impossible to do without a counselor. You can ask your friends, your family, alumni, teachers, even some IB, resources if there are. And of course, you can always turn to IBlieve for some help. We'd be more than happy to help you with your college applications process.
All right. Okay. So I actually have one last question for the general college application questions over here. So the last question that we have is how to stand out on your college application. College application.
This is kind of hard because it's personal to everyone how you stand out. Like if I say like, oh, start your own organization to stand out, like, that's not always possible. And sometimes it might actually seem more pretentious. What I would say is obviously maintain good grades and really commit to the extracurriculars that you're doing. Like instead of spreading yourself too thin, there's a notion called like having a spike, which I personally don't really agree with. But if you have multiple spikes, that's also great. But if you do many things, but you're not really good at all of them, like there's a saying like you're a jack of all trades but a master of none. Like you don't want that to be the case. You want to have significant either commitment or excellence showcased through all of the activities that you're presenting. And even if you think that you're like an average student with good grades and good extracurriculars, there's always a way you can like present yourself to make it engaging. Like think about a story from your past that really defines who you are and that may be different from everyone else, or even the way you write, like your writing method can help you stand out. There's a lot that you can do that you can control, like factors like diversity you can't control, but what you can control, you can just like try to make the most out of everything you have.
I could not say it more succinctly than Priyasha has. I can, however, add to what she did say. She is right that academics alone does not actually make the perfect student. You could get an IB score of 45 points, but be lacking in other departments such as extracurriculars, community service, helping others, and other such. I think it is very important for every IB student going through the college applications process to remember that yes, grades do matter and they do make a very significant portion of your college application. However, that being said, you must remember that college admissions officers will see thousands, if not millions, of students every year. And they must sift through all of those applications and figure out which student is the most, the most well-fitting student for their university or their college. In my case, in my personal experience, I focused on Model United Nations and community service, such as um, Habitat for Humanity, Philippine uh, Treasury Library. It was like a children's library of sorts for public schools. Many of these things I cannot say for sure made my application stand out. However, it is somewhat making your odds a bit better by having extracurriculars, high academic scores, involvement in student leadership and governance in your school. Sports and athletics makes it can make you stand out. And I think something that is commonly misunderstood would probably be things like making your own organization or perhaps leading an outside school organization. Um, Priyasha is right. It can come across as pretentious and somewhat, I don't know, I can't find the proper word right now, but
Like try hard, maybe try hard.
definitely trying hard and being pretentious, um, and somewhat disingenuous actually. If you start your own organization just so that it can be a spike to get into college admissions, it really does seem disingenuous because college admissions officers want to see a student that has worked with an organization for many years, devoted hours and hours of their time to really influencing, developing, and innovating that organization instead of someone that starts off their organization purely so that they can be the founder of XYZ. And then the moment they get into college, they drop that organization because it is no longer necessary to their future. And through that, I think it's very important not to underestimate or overestimate college admissions officers' abilities to read between the lines and really understand um, the mentality of a lot of students.
Wow. Okay, wow. I'm speechless. Like as a year one, that's really eye-opening advice for me. And I'm really glad that, I got to host this little session with you guys. So I want the US application process is basically, your college application process, but on steroids. So is that true? Like tell me.
I really like your question because it addresses two things. Number one, it addresses the point of what is extreme or what is on steroids. What is it relative to? Number two, the college application process is standardized to a country, but not a continent, and definitely not the world. So, for example, if I compare the common application and the SATs and the ACT to the UCAS system, which does not require any standardized exam, well, the TOEFL or an English literacy course exam is or the IELTS, that's optional. Um, but more importantly, what is a common application going to be relative to it? How can you say that it's on steroids or more extreme? Um, it's very important to note that many students have a hard time with college applications as a whole. So to compare something like the US to the UK would be comparing like bananas to watermelons. They don't really jive together. They are not relative to each other in any way aside from the commonality that they are college applications. Um, I see where your college counselor is referring to. The common application is more difficult because of how much documentation and requirements it simply needs. You need to do an SAT, an ACT. You probably need to do an English literacy test. You'll also have to write multiple essays that are both standardized and non-standardized to the school that you want to enter. Um, in that way, it can certainly be more arduous and challenging and difficult with more obstacles than the UCAS system. However, at the same time, you have to understand that the US system receives, I don't know, thousands more applications than the UK system does because of how popular the liberal arts system of the United States universities are. That being said, well, personally, I felt that the UK system was easy as pie. Wrote one essay, sent it out, got all five offers, done. However, at the same time, I needed more reflection and I guess I had to think more about the 3-year course that the UK offers versus a more wide range and comprehensive 4-year course that the US offers.
Another reason why the college application process could be unfair is because it sometimes favors those with more resources. It can be hard for people like me to witness that because I did have the resources I needed when I was applying, but some people might not, and they may notice that impact them negatively, whether it be asking for financial aid or whether it be having to compete with legacy students and things like that.
Do you guys have any, last words, any advice, words of encouragement for those who will be applying soon?
I think an important thing I would say is to make sure that your college list is balanced. You might really have dream schools that are really elite schools, but always have a balance just in case something happens. The application pool this year tripled in a lot of the schools, and it can always happen that the wait lists or rejection numbers go up. So have a balance, number one, in your college list. Number two, please believe in yourself. This was really hard for me. I think I ended up applying to more universities than I needed to because I did not even think I would get into one. Don't think that way. Don't underestimate yourself. Look at your grades, look at your extracurriculars, evaluate yourself as a whole person, and be realistic with yourself. Don't undermine your accomplishments like I did, and just, be real with yourself so you're not applying to too many schools that you're not going to attend if you get in. Yeah, and good luck.
So addressing all of the year one, year two graduating students, and perhaps some pre-IB students. The college applications process is a very challenging, arduous journey. When you come out of it, it will feel like you have passed mountain ranges and you've lived past a tsunami of work. You have to remember, first and foremost, to take care of yourself. Don't burn out in high school, don't burn out in IBDP. It's really not worth it because this represents a very small portion of your life. Looking back on my own experiences, I felt that IB was took up 100% of my effort. And now that I'm 2 years into university, it almost feels like it really wasn't that much. Um, when it comes to starting the college applications process, I think what's really important is that you reflect upon what you really want, not what your parents want, not what your grandparents want, not what your siblings want, not what your friends want. Okay? When you're looking at schools, you don't look at it because it has a big name or it's very prominent or it has the best reputation. Well, of course, you want to go to school with a good reputation. Um, but what is more important is that that school is going to be a good fit for you. It can't be a school that you will end up feeling like you were pushed into or it was not your choice or you're not comfortable in it because that negates the entire idea of being independent in a new school, new environment, and other such. Um, in that same way, it's very important to remember that, let's say for the US universities, Ivy Leagues are not everything. Yes, Harvard, Yale, Princeton, Georgetown, Stanford, they're big names, that's true. They are equally large universities. And you have to think about whether you are going to be a good fit in that university. Because at the end of the day, once IB is over and once your college applications process is over and you have now entered that university, if you feel that it is not the right fit for you, then all of that effort you put into getting into that university would all be for naught. The next piece of advice that I have for all of you is you must remember to take care of yourself. Like I said, you don't want to burn out in IB. It's really not going to represent as much of your life as it seems like to you right now. If you're pre-IB, year one, year two, you're probably facing this great wall of work, this tsunami of work that's coming down. Plus, there's the COVID pandemic, therefore, it makes it doubly hard. However, please take care of all of yourselves. You don't want to burn out in IB. You want to enter college as a fresh young graduate and not, something else. Hold on. Priyasha would like to add something.
Yeah, that was really well said, but I just thought of something I wanted to add, which is the dynamic with your friends when you're applying to college, like being mindful of that because there can be a lot of competitiveness and toxicity with that. So just remember that if you're a private person and you don't want to share it with your friends where you're applying, that is totally up to you. Don't feel pressured by anyone else. Number one. And number two, when decisions are coming out, it is so easy to go on social media and see where others are getting in. And let's say you got rejected from somewhere and you see a friend getting in, speaking from experience, it can definitely feel really toxic. But I think the biggest piece of advice I would give is to focus on yourself during this process. It's a very personal process of self-growth. Like I personally have learned so much about myself throughout this whole process. So as much as possible, try to only worry about yourself. Like, oh, this person may have gotten in because they were a better fit for the school over me. It's nothing to do personally with your grades compared to their grades. It's more just your fit. So yeah, always just worry about yourself.
Okay, just to add to Priyasha's point, I think we'd like to reiterate that it's not about being selfish. You can be selfless during this period. You can provide a shoulder to cry on for your best friend, a warm, gentle hug for another friend who got rejected. But at the same time, you don't want to become, that person that brags on social media or you know, makes others feel bad for being rejected and other such. Um, I think the last piece of advice that I'd like to drop is try to be nice during the college application process. And I mean this as someone who was had a very hard time with the college applications process. I had mood swings, and it was very difficult to get good sleep, and you're constantly carrying the burden of knowing that your future uh, lies in the balance of school and extracurriculars and other and all sorts of other factors. You have to remember to be nice to your friends, your family, yourself, your teachers, um, because at the end of the day, uh, you want to be able to be a wholesome person during this process, and come out of it as a happier person, and not be so burdened with all of the decisions that you have to make. So yeah.